Trace Jackson Davis is coming back to Indiana. Matthew Meyer is coming back to school. He's transferring to Illinois. North Carolina got their top 4 guys back. Creighton got everybody back and added Baylor Shireman. TCU, low key, might be the biggest winner out of everybody in this coming back carousel. And for the record right now, as we're recording this, Drew Timme, Trevor Keels, Marcus Sasser, David Roddy, Jules Bernard, Caleb Houston, Moussa Diabate, Jalen Wilson, Kevin McCullough. Those guys have not yet made their decisions. That will happen before June 1st deadline. So
Justin
keep that
Lewis.
in mind as we're having this conversation. Oh yeah, Justin Lewis
love
as
that
well.
kid.
That's
I think he's look. I don't want to tell people what to do, but I think that he is a pro, and he probably needs to head on to the NBA and get one of his 2-way deals and get his $460,000. Yeah, exactly. How many of those guys come from Marquette, by the way? Like
all those big, strong 3-4s.
Tough
like,
motherfucker.
Like,
tough motherfucker. Yeah. Jimmy Butlers,
dude.
Like, tough motherfucker.
It's been a while. That's a program that has groomed pros, but their fan base right now would say, we'll take an NCAA tournament win. I mean, they haven't won a tournament game in 10 years. I think Indiana's interesting.
I feel their pain. Fanta.
I know you do.
I feel their pain.
To me, I was looking at teams today. Like as Mike Woodson heads into his second year, Indiana's a Big Ten title contender.
Let's talk about that. Trace is back.
It's huge.
You have
Race Thompson back for a 6th year, and he averaged 11 and 8 last year. Trace Jackson Davis is a unicorn of a college talent. He is. When he's on the floor, he just juts out. He runs the floor like a deer, averaged 18 and 8 this past year. Defensively, he's a presence for his team. He plays so hard. And in terms of how you defend him, I think it's really difficult. In fact, I think he's as tough of an assignment in the Big Ten as there is. So for me, when you look at Indiana and you consider the fact they bring in a 5-star guard and Jalen Hood Schifino, plus Xavier Johnson, who comes back, he averaged over 5 assists per game this past year. It's not as if you have Hood Schifino coming in and he has to take everything on. No, they've got an established point guard that can make things happen for others. And who was the best defensive team, according to Ken Pom, in the Big Ten last season? The Indiana Hoosiers. Mike Woodson has a club that could win a Big Ten championship. And look, I don't care how you do it, what way you do it. If he could do that in his second year, that would be silencing a whole hell of a lot of critics that poured on Indiana. There are high expectations in Bloomington. That's good for the health of college basketball. But TJD coming back means that Indiana can win the Big Ten.
Yeah, they got that other 5-star kid. I'm not going to try to say his name from Montverde. Malik
Renaud.
Yeah, Malik Renaud. Tamar Bates, former top 25 5-star guy, coming back, should be better. Look, I'll tell you this, T.O. Greg Waddell, who does a lot of our social media stuff, does production stuff for us, Sleepers Media guy, Big Ten guy. He said to me the other day, he thinks Indiana should be a top 10 team with Trace Jackson back. And I was like, dude, what the fuck are you talking
about? I'm not mad at it.
I'm not mad at it. You've been drinking? And my initial reaction was, Indiana top 10? Are you crazy? And then I went back and I looked. It's not that crazy. If they make shots, if Miller Kopp is making shots. That's the key.
And
Jalen Hood Schifino are making shots. If those guys are making shots, that's a good team.
They got to make shots, and Miller Kopp, he's got to make shots this year at a higher rate. And then the guy that I really think could be that guy, he's had a year to get his feet under him there in Bloomington. I think Tamar Bates. I'm a fan. Big, strong body. He's going to have to hit more shots this season. Obviously, he's struggled from the field this year, but I think that freshman wall hit him pretty hard. He's got a lot of talent. He's got a smooth stroke. He's somebody who can knock down shots. I think this season. He could be, your freshman to sophomore year, you're going to be able to see one of the biggest jumps in that league because of his talent level and because of Xavier Johnson. Every time you do that, Fanta, I think you're disagreeing with me. So it throws me off for half a second.
I agree with you.
It's the same thing when
you hit me with the Fox News face. You hit me with Fox Sports. Let me correct myself. Fox Sports face.
That's the Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, but it throws me off for a second.
Well, you know what you made me think. So you made me think. Like I think the Big Ten goes through some roster turnover, and we're looking at Michigan right now and whether or not Houston and Diabate what their decisions are. As we do this podcast, we haven't heard those decisions. But to me, like, we could call it Indiana the front runner because we know what they've got. Mm-hmm. And frankly, I don't think it's been a great off season for the Big Ten thus far. Michigan State really has not done much, in my opinion.
Illinois has done well.
Illinois has done well, but they had major losses. They've done well. They're one of the winners. To me, one of the biggest questions is, what version of Matthew Mayer is Illinois getting?
Well, that's the thing. It's like there's
before we get to Illinois, before we do that, can we just say that I think Indiana's certainly a top 3 team in the Big Ten. Certainly.
Yeah, no, they are. I would peg them as favorite. I'd peg them as the favorite.
I would peg them as favorite. As of right now, they're the favorites. And not only that, the only people they lost were their most inconsistent pieces. Okay, Christian Lander, right. Rob Fennessy, Parker Stewart, Michael Durr. They were the most inconsistent dudes they had on the team. All 4 of those guys are gone. And now you're bringing in some 5-star kids on the tail end of it. You get Tamar Bates, who's really, really good. In my opinion, it's taken him a while. I think they could very, very well win the Big Ten.
Can we talk? Because we don't know what's going on elsewhere in the league.
Yeah, but can we talk about Tamar Bates for a second? My man wears number 53.
I'm with it.
Oh, that's awesome.
He wears number 53. Like, on the one hand, like, what are you doing? But on the other hand, I kind of love it, right?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
He's going completely off script. How do you not love a dude that's who wears 50? Offensive linemen wear 53. You got to be a certain kind of
long snappers
to wear 53.
Long snappers wear 53.
Left guard John Fanta. John Fanta, freshman team, Seton Hall Prep High School.
I wore 64, and I went to St. Ignatius High School in Cleveland.
St. Ignatius.
I was a terrible left guard.
First of all, powerhouse.
Yeah. And the coach told me after my second season, "You're not made out for this football thing. Why don't you head up to the broadcast booth? There's some pizza up there." Let me tell you something.
Say that.
No, you know what he heard? He heard those
Terrence, that's exactly what he said, and it was the best advice I ever got.
No, that's great. That's such a good story.
Yeah, I went home to my mom. I told her that he had told me to stop playing, and I think she wanted to go down to the school and give him a piece of her mind. I said, "Mom, he's right. I stink." That said, 53 is great. 53, Bates just became my favorite player.
Yeah. I
Who
love
wears
it.
53?
I love it. No one does. Tamar Bates does. That's it. He's the only guy. I do want to have this. We need to have this conversation about Illinois because they are. I don't know if there's a team that has a higher ceiling that also has a floor that could be like that. That team might win 3 games next year, man. Because if you look at it, right, Sky Clark, Terrence Shannon, Matthew Mayer, Coleman Hawkins, those 4 guys right there, if all of them are the best version of themselves, like all 4 of them could end up being NBA players, right? I don't think that that's something that's crazy to say. They also are 4 guys that are just good enough to be the best player on teams that can't win any games. And that it's so
good enough. My dad used to say this all the time. He used to say, "Good enough to get you beat."
Yes. That's 100% what they are. So if you have any idea what to expect from this Illinois team, go ahead. Please enlighten me because I have no idea.
It's kind of crazy, but there's so much offensive versatility with that group now. Like if you look at it, like Sky Clark has to be really good. What's the kid? Jaden Epps is a good player too. Everybody, all the Illinois faithful are like, you're overlooking him. I'm like, I'm not sure I'm overlooking him because I think he's a good player. But Sky Clark could be a difference maker his first year in the Big Ten, and there's not many that are in the Big Ten. So there's a lot of offensive versatility. Terrence Shannon's a good player, really good college player. It's just, how are you going to make all these pieces fit? And then one guys I really liked, and Rob, me and you watched him play at the Peach Jam last year. Ty Rodgers is a beast.
Yes.
He is a beast. I thought for sure he had the makings of looking like a Michigan State player just because he is just so strong physically and everything like that. He is a really, really good player. And a guy that played at Baylor, another Baylor guy, Dane Danger.
He'll start at center, maybe.
He was a really nice high school player that he's from the state of Minnesota, I believe.
Yes, he is. He's from the state of Minnesota.
And he has really long arms. He's got some good skill. He reminds me a little bit of a guy named Eli Thomas that played at Clemson a few years ago. Kind of the same build, same mold, motor, big guys. Yeah.
The problem is they don't have an alpha.
It's
I
hard
don't
to
know
know
if they
that
have
though. It's hard to know that though, Fanta. It's hard to know
Okay.
that right now
Well,
because
when
there's
I
so
look at
many
them-
pieces.
I think
Yeah,
Terrence
yeah. When I
Shannon,
look at them
Terrence
right
Shannon
now-
thinks he's an alpha. And that's like if Terrence Shannon can, Terrence Shannon thinks he is the alpha.
Here's
He
the
thought he was
problem
the
with
alpha on
Terrence
Texas
Shannon
Tech
thinking,
last year.
if when you're the alpha, you can't just be the alpha half the time. Like if you're the alpha of a team, you can't part-time alpha. You turn into beta real quick in everybody else's eyes, and then you have a conflict, and then like you can't be part-time alpha. You gotta go full-time alpha. That's Fanta. He's newly married.
You can't be part-time alpha. You got to bring your game every night, whether it's to the court or the bedroom. Like you got to be a full-time alpha. You know, you can't. You have to embrace the role. My point is, you're right, and this is why projections are only projections. But you can't sit here and say that Illinois is the best team in the Big Ten when they don't have the best player of Illinois or Indiana. Indiana does. Illinois, to me, is a quality team, but Terrence Shannon Jr. is part-time alpha. Matthew Mayer, his shooting percentage dropped over 8% from 2020-21 to 21-22. I'm so curious. I don't know what to expect from Matthew Mayer. And the fact is, Kofi Cockburn walks through that door, and you're going to miss him in so many ways because if for nothing else, he gravitated so much attention. So look, there's going to be a lot on Sky Clark, and Clark and Shannon, if they can coexist and make each other better, then they'll be a pretty good basketball team. But we don't know how that's going to pan out.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of questions there. There's also a lot of potential there. So that might be the one thing.
You could also see Underwood going back to his spread offense where you can pull a 5 away.
Yeah, 100%.
So like now you can see his coaching ability now that he's got a more versatile group. Coleman Hawkins, I called this before last season. He was wildly inconsistent last year, but man, you can see the potential, can't you, Rob?
Yeah, 100%. The guy that does our Illinois podcast, Deion Thomas, who's the all-time leading scorer at Illinois, a legend at that program, has been talking about him for like 2 years, just hyping this dude up. And when, I'm not going to say if, when Coleman Hawkins puts it all together, he's going to end up being a beast. But that's the same thing with Matthew Mayer. That's the same thing with Terry. That's my thing about Illinois. There's going to be games where they blow people out by 30 and you're like, holy shit, this team's winning the national title.
Mm-hmm.
And there's going to be games where they lose by 30 and you're like, holy
that's
shit,
just it.
This team is worse than Northwestern.
Walking into this upcoming season may not be the worst thing in the world for this league, but let's face it. The Big Ten is not going to have the expectations that they've had the last 2 years. The Big Ten doesn't have a top 10 team in the country entering the 2022-23 season. They don't have a top 10 team in the country.
Mm-hmm.
I think Indiana, Michigan, and Purdue in one way or another. I think that those are probably the 3 teams that are best in the league heading into next year.
I just feel like Indiana, he's going to have them guarding. He's going to have them guarding, and then you're going to see his versatility in his play calling that you saw in years prior to Kofi.
To me, it comes down to for Indiana, it comes down to Xavier Johnson. What is he going to end up being? For Illinois, it's going to come down to whether or not there is A, consistency, B, some kind of an alpha, and C, like, does that team actually come together? And then for Michigan, like, I don't think we're talking enough about Michigan. If they get Diabate and Caleb Houston back, which, by the way, like, we don't know as of this recording whether or not they're coming back. Like that team, Hunter Dickinson with Diabate back, Caleb Houston making shots, and they're bringing in the kid from Princeton, Jalen Llewellyn.
Jalen thanks for bringing that one up.
Sorry.
Hey, for all that went wrong for that team, look what they did in the NCAA tournament.
Exactly.